Picture a national health insurer replacing a 25-year-old claims platform with a modern, cloud-native system. The technical scope was clear: 500-plus business rules, 12 integrations, 800 users to migrate. What surprised the project manager was how little of her time, from month 7 through month 24, actually went to technology. The real work was helping an entire claims department learn a new way of working. New roles, new escalation paths, new relationships between underwriters and adjusters. Without that shift, the platform would launch and fail no matter how well it was built. In this lesson, you will learn how to support organizational change, the competency that turns a technically perfect deliverable into one people actually use. We will build up the culture assessment process, the ADKAR model, and the toolkit the exam expects you to recognize. In this lesson, you will learn to treat organizational change as a first priority work stream, not an afterthought. Here is the path from diagnosis to action to the traps you must avoid. Before planning any intervention, you assess the culture you are working in. Is it hierarchical, needing formal approval, or organic, needing team consensus? You examine vision, values, power structures, and how this organization has handled change before. You will learn Prosky's 5-step model: awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement, and how to use it as a diagnostic. When adoption stalls, it tells you exactly which step to fix first, so your intervention is precise instead of a guess. You will see how supporting change looks different by delivery approach: a scheduled cutover in predictive work, incremental releases in agile work, and a blend of both in hybrid environments with a fixed deadline and variable readiness. You will learn to reframe resistance. Instead of treating pushback as a discipline problem, you treat it as information, a signal revealing a risk, a skill gap, or a cultural mismatch you still need to address. Finally, you will learn to recognize the traps the exam loves, focusing only on the technical output, mandating adoption instead of earning it, and saving all training for one shocking go-live moment instead of building readiness gradually. Every project produces 2 deliverables, and the exam wants you to see both. There is the technical output, the system, the process, the redesigned workflow. And there is the organizational shift that lets that output actually create value. Go back to the health insurer. The technical rollout finished on time and on budget, but the postmortem found one decision made the real difference. The project manager treated organizational change as a top priority work stream from month 1, not as something the human resources team would handle later. The result was 94% user adoption within 60 days, against an industry baseline of roughly 40% for a project this size. Skip the second deliverable, and the first one, however well engineered, delivers nothing. The organization simply will not use what it was never prepared to use. Before you can plan any change, you need to understand the soil you are planting in. That means 3 connected moves. Review the organization's vision, mission, values, and norms. Look at leadership styles and power structures, and study how this group has responded to change in the past. History is often the best predictor of future resistance. Map out who influences opinion, who will actively champion the change, and who is likely to resist it. These are not the same 3 people, and treating them the same is a common early mistake. Ask whether the culture is hierarchical, needing formal approval, or organic, needing team consensus, and whether it is risk-averse or innovative. Surveys, interviews, or a structured model like ADKAR help you diagnose this landscape before you act. Once you understand the culture, you analyze how the project will disrupt it, and you decide what to do about that disruption. Identify the internal or external forces acting on the organization right now: a merger, a new regulation, a leadership change. These drivers shape how much appetite the organization has left for your project's demands. Ask how the project disrupts daily operations, who loses influence, and who needs new skills. This determines how the change affects project objectives, team composition, and what stakeholders now expect from you. Build a response strategy. training for competence, communication for awareness and desire, and champions, influential people who advocate for the change from inside the group rather than having it imposed from outside. Supporting change looks different depending on how you deliver. In predictive work, change is a distinct work stream running alongside the technical plan. You schedule formal training and go live communications well ahead of one major cutover. When a government IT project faces a leadership change midway, the project manager formally reassesses the new leader's expectations and updates the plan through change control. In adaptive work, change arrives gradually. Small, frequent releases get users accustomed to new ways of working without one big shock. And sprint reviews surface resistance early so the team can adjust immediately. Hybrid work often blends both. A hospital might face a fixed, legally mandated deadline for digital records, while nurse training runs as weekly simulation labs adjusted based on feedback, a fixed date with a flexible path to readiness. Organizational theory and the readiness matrix look at the whole group. ADKAR zooms in on one person's journey through 5 sequential states. The first state is awareness. Does the person understand why the change is needed at all? Skip this, and every later step is built on sand, because people who do not understand the why rarely commit to the how. The second state is desire. Do they actually want to participate? This is where the "what's in it for me" question lives. Awareness alone does not create willingness. People need a personal reason to lean in. The third state is knowledge. Do they know what to do differently? This is where targeted training belongs, but only once awareness and desire are already in place, or the training simply will not land. The fourth state is ability. Can they actually perform the new behavior under real conditions? Knowing what to do is not the same as being able to do it smoothly, which is why coaching and practice environments matter here. The fifth state is reinforcement. Will the new behavior stick once the spotlight moves on? Without recognition, follow-up, and accountability, people quietly drift back to the old way, and the change unravels months after it appeared to succeed. Look at this readiness profile. Awareness sits at 4.2, knowledge at 3.8. People clearly understand why the change is happening and mostly know how to do it. But desire sits at just 1.6, far below every other element. This is the barrier point, and it changes your entire response. More training will not help here, because the gap is not a skills gap. People know why, they just do not want to change. The correct action is to investigate the root cause of that resistance. Maybe the change threatens someone's status. Maybe it eliminates a task people took pride in. This is exactly the kind of scenario the exam uses to test whether you reach for the generic fix, more communication, or more training, instead of diagnosing which specific ADKAR element is actually broken. Now compare this second profile. Desire is strong at 4.1, and knowledge and ability both sit around 3.5. This group wanted the change and could perform it. Yet reinforcement scores only 1.5, the lowest of the 5. This pattern tells a specific story. The change was adopted, and now people are reverting to the old way. That is not a training problem or a motivation problem. It is a follow-up problem. The right action is to add recognition, checkpoints, and accountability mechanisms so the new behavior becomes the default rather than a temporary effort. Notice how different this intervention is from the desire barrier. In the previous example, same model, same 5 letters, completely different diagnosis, and completely different fix, which is exactly why ADKAR works as a diagnostic tool rather than a checklist. Beyond ADKAR, 4 tools appear repeatedly on the exam, each solving a different piece of the adoption puzzle. Organizational theory borrows from Hertzberg and McGregor to explain resistance, often fear, or a lack of recognition. You use it during resource and stakeholder planning to tailor your approach to real psychology, not assumptions. The Stakeholder Engagement Assessment Matrix compares where each stakeholder is now against where they need to be resistant, moving towards supportive. You do not need everyone leading the charge. You just need key resistors to stop blocking the change. Storytelling beats dry statistics because it engages emotion. Instead of saying the system saves time, you describe one person whose evening changed because of it. Use it in town halls to sell the benefit, not just the feature. Design thinking asks you to empathize with the user's fear before you build training. You define the real problem, often something like fear of looking incompetent. Then prototype a low-stakes solution like a sandbox and test whether anxiety actually drops. You have now covered the foundation of supporting organizational change, assessing the culture you are entering, walking the ADKAR journey from awareness through reinforcement, and matching your toolkit to the methodology you are running. Carry forward one idea above all others. The technical deliverable and the organizational shift are two separate outcomes, and only the second one turns your hard work into real value. In the next part, you will apply all of this to real scenarios and learn the specific traps the exam sets around resistance, mandates, and culture. That's it for this lesson. See you in the next lesson.